Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Perspective Checks, where I sit down with friends and folks from the TTRPG community to talk about all the things we love about this hobby, things that we watch and go, that needs to be at my table. And sometimes you get so into it that you blur the lines between character and actor and role, and we're going to find out a whole lot more. Today, I am joined by Laurence Phillips, aka Hardy Roach Games, a game designer who is making a very interesting game that I cannot wait to talk about. Laurence, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. What a slick introduction.
I try, and I almost tried my best Italian there, but we're going to save it until we get into...
Okay. We want to put more pressure on... We want to put a spotlight on you first.
Yeah. You want me to go for it? All right. Laurence is crowdfunding a game called Il Fantasma di Giallo. How was it?
Not bad. Not bad.
I'm not Italian at all, and that translates to... Oh, I didn't write down the actual translation.
It translates roughly to the Ghost of Yellow,
okay.
The Phantom of the Yellow. It's that kind, the Phantom of Yellow. But the Phantom of the Yellow is the subtitle.
Wonderful.
It's not a direct translation, but it's close,
And we'll talk about why yellow is important to what it is and what Giallo means and all that. But first, I like to start every interview episode that I do with folks here with the same 3 questions, so we can set a baseline and get to know you and kind of segue into what we're going to talk about. So the first question is the usual, where did you start? It's how long have you been playing TTRPGs or been around the hobby?
So I have been playing TTRPGs for probably almost exactly 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I got into them when I went to, I made friends with a load of dorks at my school. They were playing a Star Wars Saga Edition game.
Oh.
With, in a little club that was run by the head of IT. Because all the school clubs, you needed a teacher supervisor. The teacher was a massive nerd, and he was a player in the campaign as well. I remember my vivid memory of my first session is we were getting ready to play, and the teacher had his feet up on the computer desk, and he was reading an issue of the Star Wars official magazine that had that month the top 100 Star Wars characters, and he was just shaking his head and tutting. He was like, Lando Calrissian at 58? Are you joking?
That does seem very low for Lando.
Yeah, it was not acceptable behavior. Write a firmly worded letter to your council about that.
That's right. Top 3,
yeah,
though,
and then
Cantina Band, right?
And then you got to whale that jizz. And then I played like a Warhammer fantasy roleplay 2nd edition game after that. I think I ran that one. And my second ever game at IGN, and then did some D&D and stuff. And yeah, I've been playing ever since. I got especially into it at uni because I ran the tabletop society.
Nice, excellent. So you've seen some iterations. I love talking to people and getting an idea, right? Like I've talked to a lot of people who started during COVID, right? Like started during lockdown, and they were like, well, we needed something to do. And it's like, okay, so, and like, not saying that their experience is any different, but it's like, okay, so you've had like the last 5 years of like VTTs and like online games and like the prevalence of 5e. And then you talk to people who are like, I got into it in middle school and I was playing like some either like 3.5 or like some like real weird out there thing that influenced everything that's come since, for me. So it's interesting to get that baseline. Now, that's where you started, and I love the idea that you're playing Star Wars and not the West End Games D6 one. It was the other. So interesting, because I haven't heard a lot of people who've played that one, but I'm sure Star Wars, being as huge as it is, has a bigger audience.
Yeah, I mean it's fine. Like as D20 games go, then they're not like exactly an amazing prop, but like it's one of the decent ones as far as they go. Like my character was it's classic first character, right? It was a Rhodian sniper who had a super cool backstory, but he didn't talk about it, and he was just rude to everyone, and he barely spoke. Which means, obviously, you never heard his backstory,
right?
Because he doesn't talk, and no one cares. No one else cares. That's why you got to make characters that can't shut the hell up. about them, actually. Otherwise, you'd never hear it.
Yeah, and I feel like Star Wars is a genre or is a touchstone fictionally where you can have a character like that, and it's like it makes sense somewhere. It makes,
Yeah.
but what have you been playing lately? Have you what have your tastes evolved into, or what have you been playing?
Yeah, I mean, what I've been playing, I mean, honestly, I've been playing my game lately, obviously, but other than that, I've been doing quite a bit of Trail of Cthulhu, actually. Like, mostly by coincidence, I've ended up playing it in a couple of different groups in the last like 6 months. And I'm playing in a Lancer game too. By the time this is out, I will have played it. It will be my first time playing Lancer. And yeah, occasional bits and bobs online. I can't even give you an example, really, but mostly my game.
Yeah, mostly in the playtesting and ironing out every little bit you can get, for sure.
Yep.
But that's awesome. And speaking of your game, the next question is the perfect segue, which is, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about my game, El Fantasma del Giallo, which is a neo-noir narrativist murder mystery game, which is a magical realist, and it's inspired by things like David Lynch and Twilight Zone, and of course, Giallo cinema.
Yes. So when I saw this and you know, I looked at the Kickstarter pre-launch page and everything like that, I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, there's some really interesting ideas here. Neo-noir is a genre that I feel like there's a few games. I feel like there's a few noir games out there. And it's like, okay. And then you look at them and you're like, okay, well, you're doing like one very specific thing, and your game is taking a very different approach to it, I think. And I don't know if maybe that's inspired by the Giallo, the Italian cinema style. In the email I wrote to you, I think that the limit of Italian influence, maybe in mainstream American cinema and discourse, and like how it's come over here, is limited to spaghetti westerns.
My ears hurt when you said that, because that's not true. So you have American cinema has a huge genre that continues to this day that is a child of Giallo, which is the slasher film. Like, the slasher film is essentially an Americanization of Giallo, to the point of, if you listen to the title track of the Dario Argento film Deep Red, and then you listen to the John Carpenter Halloween film soundtrack, opening theme track, you might think to yourself, wow, those European directors, they do love ripping off Americans. No. Deep Red was made 2 years earlier. So if there's any ripping off going on, or coincidence, not going to legally commit to that. It goes the other way. No, so actually, this is something that really interests me, because the thing about Giallo is what I'm interested in here are essential themes. Like, my feeling as a designer, I like games that just kind of sort of model a genre, right? And they take its beats, they take its tropes, and like, here's how to tell this story. One of my favorite Cthulhu games is Black Armada's excellent Lovecraft-esque, which is basically breaking down the structure of this media and, you know, exploring its themes as well. It's a really good game. I didn't necessarily want to go that far with how they kind of model it step by step, because, like, everyone, especially everyone in RPGs, kind of knows the Cthulhu mythos kind of structure. People don't know, or at least they don't think they know, the Giallo movie structure. So I wanted to nail down on the themes of it. And what's interesting about Giallo is it kind of has a few different forms over the like 20 or so years that people kind of identify as where Giallo cinema kind of had its heyday. And in the 70s in particular, with the films of Dario Argento, of Lucio Fulci, of Mario Bava, it developed into a kind of proto-slasher thing, where it was still kind of a murder mystery thing, but the body counts were higher, the murders were savagely violent, they didn't make a whole lot of physical sense, as in, like, the killer would kind of just appear and then escape, you know, without making a whole lot of sense. This is all stuff we've seen in slashers, right? But I think there's something there thematically that warrants a separation of how you consider it. And I think what that is gets to why I wanted to make it a Giallo game, which is that Giallo cinema is very pessimistic, but it's also fundamentally humanist in that it's not really, it has a universally negative view of people in terms of their capacity to do bad things, to hide things, to have secrets and lies and manipulations and exploitation. But it also identifies, or at least frames, the causes of those behaviors as societal, as environmental. Like the killer usually has some kind of traumatic event in their past that has made them this way. And obviously, this isn't the way that people are motivated to kill people in real life. But if you look at it more metaphorically, it's identifying a negative behavior, an societally unwelcome behavior. And it's saying this isn't because they're just bad, it's because they're broken in some way. And slasher movies don't do this. Really pointedly don't do this. Like, something that's interesting about slashers is they're essentially a moralistic, monstified version of like Giallo and other kind of like earlier murder films. And I don't say that in like, I don't say that as like, oh, and therefore they're bad. I really like slasher films. I really like Halloween. I really like Nightmare on Friday 13th. But that's part of their structure, is that you do a bad thing, you have sex for marriage, you do drugs, you do something, an evil guy who is evil comes and kills you. Like,
or like even inhuman, right? Like not even like there's no redeemable like human past there. Yeah, a monster. I mean, unlike, it sounds like these Italian movies had a reason for this otherwise, because isn't a lot of it, you were talking about how you want to emulate the tropes, emulate the style of this Giallo cinema. And from what I gathered, and again, I haven't been able to watch one yet. I want to like find one where it's streaming. We're going to get some recs from you by the end of this episode. But I guess there's a little bit of familiarity with these, structurally, where like a lot of times you don't know the killer until the end of these movies, but also, like you said, you're getting maybe the justification for the evil along the way, and you're seeing that maybe everyone here does have a little bit of reason or societal reason to lie, and also, to cheat, to do whatever, right? Like, which makes for interesting characters.
Absolutely. This game is like super character focused to the point where like setting information in the book, it's going to be fairly minimal, like enough there to kind of give you a starting point. But we're here for the characters. I'm a strong believer that what the bulk of your book is committed to is what the game is focused on. Like, if you're saying you're making a character-focused game, don't make the front third of the book setting, because that's not. You're not now. Sure. You're not making that. So, helpful. This is going to be, and what I wanted to be focused on is character, and I want that to come out emergently. I don't want someone to. You are explicitly told not to write a big backstory, just as I did with my Roach stuff. You're expected to come in with almost nothing, and we figure out what is there together as part play. And that directs play also, because you're molding the character as a certain thing, so it gives you a feedback loop, a play feedback thing. But I was going to say, like, something about Giallo films which is interesting to me is that they're built on shock value and surprise. So they need to make as many characters as possible have a motive or a personality that will make them possibly the killer. Like, this isn't like a finely crafted, like, logical, thing, like a logical chain of deduction. It's not a Sherlock Holmes story. It's essentially it's using the edifice of mystery to create suspense and shock and melodrama. And it doesn't really matter whether it makes sense. Like, you make it make sense.
Yeah.
But yes, sorry, I think I lost the track a little bit.
No, you're good. Again, if it's something that's inspiring the design from how this media has defined itself again. Like you said, like it was like a 20-year stretch of Italian cinema in the 70s. Was it 70s to 80s, 60s to 70s?
Yeah, 60s and 70s. Like
Yeah.
The first kind of considered Giallo film was 1963, 63 or 64, which would be the Girl Who Knew Too Much. Like, I should point it out here as well, and I need to say this in case there's any Italians listening. I know this. Don't worry, I'm about to explain it. Don't worry. Giallo is not a genre that Italians would think of or recognize as a thing.
Gotcha.
So it's an external thing that was developed by film academics and film journalists outside of Italy. In Italy, what they do use the term giallo to refer to the genre, but it's all mystery stories. So Agatha Christie is giallo.
Bigger umbrella.
It's just any and all mystery stories. It's not this period of film.
Gotcha.
But like the term itself, it means yellow. It comes from the 30s onwards. There were published this series of reprints and some original novels, and mostly reprint of other like classic mystery novels. And it was done by a publisher. And forgive me if I didn't get this correctly right, but Momodori, something like that. I would
better than I can get.
Look it up again. But anyway, they put out these pulp novels as cheap paperbacks with yellow covers. With like it had like the model was like a yellow cover, a circle in the middle with some art, and then like the title and stuff. They'd all follow that. And those books are still published, right? Or at least they were published up until I think at least the 90s, because I've seen copies up to that point. But yeah, so that's where the term giallo comes from, because that was when there isn't actually a long tradition of mystery stories in Italy. So when they became really popular in the 20s and 30s, they just got that nickname as a whole, right? Like a mystery story is a giallo because of the yellow colors.
I was actually thinking when you were saying that, you don't know if every one of the characters is capable through their backstory of being potentially, a killer in this film or in this game that we're going to, be this story we're going to be telling through this game.
Yeah.
My first thought was actually like, oh, it's like Agatha Christie where you're like slowly ruling out characters. But like in this, it's almost like the player, we should probably move to talk about characters, because I think that this is one of the most interesting and cool things that I'm excited to see how it works in your game. There's a fuzzy line in Il Fantasma di Giallo, where the player character has an actor. So like the person playing a role, and then the role, and it's basically during this shoot, it's on set at location, and they're almost like blurring the lines between what's reality when I come out and like what's reality when I'm behind the camera, if you will, if there's even a camera, because it seems very mysterious and like people.
They're functionally, when the cameras roll, the camera disappears. If they're in the world, they're in the narrative world. Yeah. So the game is it's got this sort of Persona-esque split between like the real world and this kind of very fuzzy narrativist, other world with the yellow. And in the yellow, there's no firm reality, right? Mm-hmm. Reality is bendable. If a character in one scene might make a big, important confession, and when the player says the confession, they are intending for it to be true. And in that moment, it is true, because they intended it to be true. In a future scene, another character finds a piece of evidence that shows that it's not true. It's now not true, and it was always not true, because we're just jumped onto another track, right? Where like now this is reality.
Was this a scripted line? Was this the actor? Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't it almost doesn't matter. It's like everything exists here because it needs to. The answer of if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? In the yellow, the answer is, well, that depends. Does it fall on someone important to the plot? Mm-hmm. So, but the way this feeds into things is that there's a high degree of player agency in what just the baseline truth of the game. So, if the player, we all have there are lots and lots of games that encourage players to have that kind of input, to not ask the GM, oh, where am I in this room, but instead say, no, I'm here in this room.
Yes. Yeah.
But I wanted to take that one step further because I didn't want what that player said to be authoritative either. I want them to be like, well, okay, I left the gun here and I left it for this reason. And another player can come along and say, well, you may have left the gun there, but I think you left it for this reason. And now that's true.
Yeah.
And it's this push.
Then why did I find it here? Right. And it's almost like this is fun because there's very few chances for people to sit down and play a game like this. And I think the neo-noir genre fits it perfectly to have characters who are unreliable narrators, but you're actually giving them narrative authorial control too. So like, it is really fun. I can see this, obviously, as always, when you're playing games with anybody, just be adults and have conversations and whatnot. But I can also see this being one of those funny things where one person is going to be like, how dare you overwrite my thing? It's like, hey, you have control later. Like, just rewrite. You know what I mean? Because like, eventually I feel like that track, like you said, right? Like you're getting to the point where eventually it's going to be confrontation with the killer kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that actually, what you just said there, that feeling of, how can you do that? I wanted that to happen, right? This is actually part of the design reason for having the two realities. Because if I just have the one, okay, you have your guy, there's your blowbo, and you really want this to happen. And someone else is like, no, that doesn't happen. Something else happens.
Yeah, feels bad.
And isn't that frustrating and annoying? Like, no one wants that. Right. But what we're doing here is you have your blowbo, he's the actor, and he's in there. He's in the character's head. He can have a say about what's going on, but it doesn't matter what happens to him in this film. He could die. He could do something horrible. He could do whatever. Because when the film's over, he's back into the real, and he remembers doing all of that. He remembers experiencing all of that. It's going to affect him as a person. He could even suddenly remember, hang on, that thing that happened in the film, that happened to me, or a version of it happened to me in real life. And that's how we build our backstory. We don't, that is a player autonomy thing as well. You have truths that you establish during the film about the character, and you keep those and you go back into the real world. And if you want to, you can say, oh, well, this one unlocks a memory. And now that's part of my character backstory. Like, and so what I'm trying to do with this is that the two world thing has a few functions. And the first function, as I said, is to make players be more fun with like overriding each other, twisting each other, not overriding completely, because this isn't a no game, it's a yes game. More comfortable with that level of autonomy over each other, more comfortable with doing the dumb things we need horror characters to do, because this is like a major problem with having run and played a lot of horror games. A major problem is some players just don't want to get on the boat. They just don't. They're just like, oh, no, I don't want to. And I think it's a not uncommon D&D kind of mindset where you're like, if your character dies, that's the end of them. All of your hard work. You don't want them to die. So it means you end up not being a heroic adventurer, but an opportunistic shit pretending to be an adventurer.
I love that take so much. That's great. And like you said, if you're sitting down to play a horror game, and I know this too, and I've run a few games where it's just like, you know what you have to do. Like, go into the scary place. Like, otherwise, what are we doing here? Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
we're not playing sit at home and watch the TV and have a sandwich. We're playing go into the haunted house and get stabbed by someone. Right. But the key thing is, if we're going to encourage people to do that, we need to do a few things. One thing is to reward their reckless behavior. Make sure that their reckless behavior doesn't mean that they're just sat there waiting for the session to be over because now they're dead.
Sure.
And make sure they don't lose anything by it. So, to do number one, which I've already forgotten what I said, encourage the reckless behavior. So to encourage the reckless behavior, we need to make sure that it's fun and it has like a direct mechanical incentive. To make sure that you're not sat there twiddling your thumbs, we need to make sure that it's part the death is part of the narrative, and also we give them something to do after that character's dead. And to do the third thing, which whatever I said, is don't take away anything from them.
Yes.
So we don't want to take away anything from them. That's why they have two characters. So that their role dies, which is their character in the film, their actor is still alive. And their actor can't die for the purposes of this. Their life can get worse and worse, but they can't die. So it's interesting because an earlier version of this game was just in film work. And that works in certain genres, especially genres that people are familiar with, but it just didn't work for me. I needed more. I needed more to work with, more ways to manipulate people.
Yeah, and I love that it turns into something where it's affecting the actor. So every time you do zoom out and have those moments, characters or players can choose to tie a scene, an event, something like that to their actor backstory. And now it's going to influence more things about roles they take in the future and all this stuff. But like you're making and again, if we're doing horror mixed in with neo-noir, then you're bringing a more and more broken person to each role, you know what I mean? Which is only going to make more reckless decision making more reasonable, right? It's feeding the loop in the right way.
Yeah, what I want to do as well is I think a lot of very genre narrativist games like this are like kind of one-shot games to a certain extent. I was talking to someone else about this, and they made this point as well. And I like campaigns, even if they're just like short campaigns. So I wanted like a kind of more narrative game where it gets better if you run it as a campaign. Like you're building something that you can go for quite a long time. So that's why there'll be like there's like there's a mystery in the real, like why are you here? Why can't you leave? And I'm not going to dictate what that reason is. I'm going to give a lot of prompts on what it could be, but I want people to kind of build that together as well. And you have like an excitement about you have like basically kind of an equivalent of like a new dungeon, but instead of a new dungeon, it's like a new film.
Or even like we shot in this country for this long because we had to get these scenes, but then we had to fly over to here to do this other thing. It can be part of the same film, or maybe it's a franchise of a single film, which only like really reinforces this like, why do I keep taking these jobs? This contract is killing me. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and I want to have that kind of. That's where the kind of magical realist elements come in, where it's like, okay, well, why don't they just leave? If they're like literally experienced murdering people and being brutally murdered, why don't they just go home? And they can't, And I've got again some problems of why they can't. My favorite is just because this lines up with how Giallo generally plays with supernatural elements, which is plausibly mundane, but very weird. So like, if they want to get the train out of town, the rail lines are on strike. If they want to get a car, the roads are closed. If they want to hike it, they get lost in the fog and they end up out where they are. All of this could happen. It's just really weird that it keeps happening.
Yeah.
But you could do it like, you go out of town and then you just wake up back at home, or, you go out of town and whatever, you teleport back, whatever it is. Like
the shoot is wherever you wake up, right? Like you're like, I finally got out, and then you wake up, you walk out your door, and they're just like, good, are you ready for your scene? And you're like,
yeah. Like you charter your plane, you like finally you get a chartered plane back to like Los Angeles, and you're mid-flight, and suddenly the pilot is like, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we've got an emergency. We'll be stopping off in Seville first. And then you land in Seville and they're like, you're here. Time for your shoot.
It's so good. Just like really messing with that actor's head. Just like, no.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. And like what I also like to talk about characters a bit again. What I'm trying to do with this is that element of like in Giallo, where everyone's a horrible person, but everyone's a human with understandable motivations. Personally, I really like to think about things like that. And while beating yourself up over stuff is always going to be destructive and fruitless, it is not always bad to have negative realizations about yourself, I think. One of the most valuable realizations I made was that I'm an idiot about almost everything.
It's his personal experience, or is this an example? I don't want to.
No. Like like everyone is an idiot about almost everything.
Yes.
And internalizing that is a really good idea because it stops you from, I don't know, seeing some trend on the news that you have literally never read a single word about and immediately having like a really strong opinion.
Yes.
Like that's just a bad thing to do. Like, and it's, I think humility is good. Like, you shouldn't let humility turn into like, aggressive, beating yourself up. But I think it's important to realize what you're good at and what you're not good at. You don't have to pretend to be good at it.
Yes, that's very good advice. You should have saved that for the end because one of my questions is advice for listeners. But be humble and it's okay to not know things is very good advice for anyone all the time. One of the best things you can learn to say is I don't know enough to make a comment.
Yeah, but like what I want to get at as well is like we're all dumb about something. Yeah. We've all made mistakes. They're not as egregious as the characters in the game have made, but the point about a lot of these films as well is that a lot of these things are kind of metaphorical. Like, obviously they're doing these horrible things, but they're kind of synecdoche for the kind of bad things that we do on a day-to-day basis. That aren't like not super terrible or anything, but like it's fine. We don't have to like perform perfection all the time. We make mistakes. Like I think it's when you call someone the wrong name or say the wrong thing in the wrong place or accidentally destroy something or ruin something that you didn't know about. You don't have to like, I feel like a lot of people sometimes their immediate reaction is like a really existential fear. They're bad now. Like,
well, I guess I got to go lock myself away and never go to another thing. Yeah. Give yourself grace.
I'm so sorry. Will you please forgive me? And to be honest, I don't want to hear that. If you've done something wrong, I don't want to hear that. I just want to hear like, oh, I'm really sorry about that, man. Can I help? And be like, no, you're good. I'm okay. Like, my point here is we're imperfect, and I like imperfect characters, and these characters are real imperfect. The level to which you want them to be imperfect is up to your taste. I'm not going to sit down with you at the table and say, nah, that wasn't edgy enough. You got to
ramp up the guilt, ramp up yourself beating up. Right? Beat yourself up more. Yeah.
Like whatever people want to explore, the depths of which they want to explore, that's up to them. Like whatever you can handle, whatever you find helpful.
How much is it eating up this character, this actor, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, do you want them to be a really sympathetic piece of shit or a completely unsympathetic piece of shit? Like, it's fine.
But there's no getting out of the piece of shit category, right?
It's just mechanically baked in, unfortunately. Like, it's if you don't want to play flawed characters who are flawed on some level, even if those flaws are relatively, not condemnable, like.
Laurence, I'm going to challenge you. When this game comes out, I'm going to play like a perfectly good Boy Scout boy in your game. And he's going to no flaws whatsoever. He's perfect. He's never made a mistake in his life, and he's going to be totally fine in this movie.
There's an archetype for you that's good for that. Actually, there is an archetype. There are 9 archetypes, which are like classes, and they're all based on kind of the kind of characters you tend to see in films. And one of them is called the Lamb. And the lamb is a innocent.
Sure.
I did air quotes.
Big air quotes, yeah.
They are an innocent, but they're probably not an innocent.
No,
so So you can play that archetype and see how you get.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you thought of that too. So you were like, someone's going to mess with me, and I'm going to. Speaking of mechanics as well, and we can dive into archetypes and stuff like that if you want to relate how they work. But we're talking about a TTRPG, so somebody is scratching their head, going, "Ooh, this game sounds interesting. How do I play it?" And the resolution mechanic for this is trick-taking card, like playing card game. Yeah. So what made you decide on that?
Well, the playing card thing is because I like playing cards.
Yeah.
I made life harder for myself because probabilities of playing cards are much harder to calculate. But also, I'm running a narrative game, so it's not really simple.
We don't have to worry about the numbers as much, yeah.
Yeah, I do have to consider it, but like it vibes, it's I don't necessarily have to build a super incentive simulation. The other reason is the tricks taking. So one of my favorite designed games is Dogs in the Vineyard, which I just thought was incredible when I read it, and I love two things about it. I love the way that it incorporates gambling feeling mechanics, or kind of feeding them back into being dice based still.
Yeah, it's a bit very push your luck kind of system, though.
Yeah, and extended narrow conflict with a back and forth flow. I like that a lot. And I was thinking, well, you know, Dogs in the Vineyard is transferring like a kind of pokery sort of dynamic to dice. Can I convert that back into cards, but with something else other than like poker as an inspiration? Like it's the classic, I'm trying to look at something, be inspired by something, and see what I can do that it's not doing.
Mm-hmm.
So the trick-taking idea came when I was working through prototypes with like different card games. And the trick-taking one felt really good because it's very all or nothing, right? It's very like someone's left holding the bag. And I really liked that idea of it felt very appropriate of having this very kind of like someone in the seat is gonna come out the worse, and it's hard to kind of explain because it just felt correct for me. Mm-hmm. It felt like matched the way that the Giallo films kind of swing wildly, their narratives kind of swing wildly back and forth.
I don't want to interrupt your thought process, but I'm also thinking, it also kind of tracks for actors in a scene. Not necessarily that one actor is going to steal the scene, but at the same time, everyone's out there putting their all into it, and they want to shine in this moment, but someone's going to be the one that the scene kind of revolves around one way or another. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So the way the actual mechanics work is you play through a conflict and a series of bidding where the kind of aggressor for the round, which is if it's the first round, it's the person who kind of initiated the conflict. If it's subsequent rounds, it's whoever lost. So the aggressor makes a bid on their hand, with they draw based on how good their skills, their stats are. So if they, if it's I guess that, well, I'll just leave it at that for the moment. They draw based on their stats. They'll make a bid. Low bid is better. It's like a reverse trick-taking game, so you want to get low as possible. And they describe what they do. And then the defender does a counter bid. And if it's higher than the bid, then they have to describe how they lost the momentum, how they lost the upper hand. If it's lower than the bid, they have to describe how they get the upper hand over the other person. Then the person who lost the round chooses to either continue, to escalate it, make it more dangerous, to get more cards, or just fold the relent, which is just you give up the stakes and just you've lost the conflict. And then whoever loses conflict, because all of these bids are played into the middle, into a conflict pile, and that the rounds can go on as long as people have cards to play, but whoever loses the conflict takes the whole pile, and that's their form, which is damage, but it's it's not just that.
Right.
In the yellow, you draw cards from your actor deck and put them into a trauma, and in the real, you draw from your trauma and you put them back to the actor deck. So there's an incentive for becoming as traumatized as possible, so that you have cards to use in the real.
Right.
Yeah, and then there are like tropes, which are like special kind of class abilities, basically, with different archetypes have to allow them to manipulate reality in a way that's appropriate to their kind of character. And those, you play them with face cards. They give you trauma by using them, but they're quite effective. Like the crook archetype has an ability, the trope called the gun will be there. And what that means is during a conflict, they can reach behind something like a bookcase or a desk or a toilet, and find a 5-shot snub-nosed 38 special revolver. And they can do that one. That one is like a once film thing, so not every scene you're in, you can't be like, there's one take here too. But it's that's the way. It's inspired by like cinematic tropes. It's inspired. That one is inspired specifically from things in The Godfather.
Yep.
It's just something to give each archetype like a fun flavor. And what's fun is that as they level up their characters by unveiling more horrible things about their past and such, they can start unlocking the ability to use their tropes in the real world. But it also indicates, it's not so much an indication of their growing power as an indication of the increasing instability of the real world.
Yeah.
So
I love that too, right? Like this person who's so used to playing somebody who has to shoot their way out of things, right? What was the crooked? Is that what it was called?
The crook, yeah.
The crook, yeah. Like they're getting so affected by, being on the back heel or having to do the wrong thing to get by in their movies that next thing you know, they're walking around. Never know when I might need one. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. And I mean the archetypes like the Don, powerful figures, crook, figures outside the law, lamb, innocent quote unquote figures, the inquisitor, information gatherers,
the
visionary artists and stuff, and just artists and like radicals, political outspoken people. The downtrodden is kind of like people who are kind of a Coen Brothers character, like just very, ignored until they're wrapped up in big things, or like the glasses guy played by Thingy from Twilight Zone, the Joseph Meredith.
Yeah.
And then there's the mystic who has kind of like weird possible supernatural powers, but not
culty,
confirmed. We're not confirming this. It's just plausibly mundane. The wanton, who is a waster, and I don't mean that in terms of like they're not drinking weed in their they're a waster of love, money, people. Like they're someone who burns quick and fast. They live a wild life with stuff.
Nice.
And then the liberty, who is someone who has unconventional, borderline immoral tastes.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
Yes. And then there's the killer, which any of you, but I can talk a bit about that if you want.
Yeah. I was actually just wondering about that. So at some point, one of you will become the killer.
Yeah.
Will take on that role.
The way it works is that up until the final scenes of the film, the killer is essentially a PvE element, as in they can appear in scenes based on certain triggers. I, as the director, can trigger them if I want to. When you get to the kind of reveal seeking, you have a list of things that might be applicable to your characters. So it's like, and the director instructs the players to draw cards based on how many of the triggers they hit. So have you encountered your fears? How high is your trauma level? You have as a role, like the role has a character profile that's very brief, right? It's not something you need to spend like a really long time on. You just kind of say, in one sentence, who are you? Who are your mates or family or enemies? It's like 2 or 3 of those. What do you want? What do you need? What are you scared of? And we have a want and need, not because we're a Disney film that's going, you're gonna realize your need. No, we're ruining both of these. You'll learn your need just in time to realize you can't do it. So it's like you draw more if your want becomes impossible. You draw even more if your need becomes impossible, and then you draw less if you've been in a scene with the killer. But it doesn't make it impossible. It makes it so you can indeed be in like 4 scenes with the killer and find out that you're the killer. Figure it out.
Sure.
Right? It doesn't like it. Anyway, and then everyone just comes up and it's like, okay, well, you've got highest, you're the killer. So now for the rest of the film, however many scenes it takes for us to wrap it up, probably only a few, you're the killer. So,
go get him.
And we make it make sense now, right? If there's stuff, we can, like a lot of what I want people to do here, and it's not something I've personally seen in RPGs. I'm sure someone's done it. There are new ideas. It's not something I personally think. Is we're doing a mystery story kind of backwards, right? We're coming up with evidence, and then we're thinking, right, how does that even fit into things, right? So when we get to the end, we're like, who's the killer? It's you, right? Let's piece that together based on the evidence we've got so far. And ideally, your characters will be stuff that you can do that with any of them because they're all bad and they've all got motives.
Well, and they've all, exactly. And they've all been in scenes where you can tie together certain actions or whatever and say, oh, we didn't think about this, but like you actually didn't do this thing when we were all doing this thing. That explains why you could do XYZ. Yeah. No, I like that. That's fun. And I'm a big fan of player knowledge, like I call it above the table knowledge, and then like, character knowledge. I'm a huge fan of just laying it all out and being like, we're a writer's room. And I think that this, like you get a good group of people who are willing to just be like, oh, we can connect these dots. You know what I mean? And everybody, when multiple people have ideas, it's inevitably going to be better than one person trying to do it all,
And that's something that's been the most fun in playtesting is when everyone starts to get into the right mindset and you're just bouncing ideas off each other. You're like, oh, this thing that I found, that is your guy. Your like his name is on it. And they're like, yes. And it also lists this character as like the recipient of the wheel that and you're playing off each other, and it's that creative like back and forth free flow that is super fun, and like it allows like I think it's the kind of thing that's only kind of possible, especially when what you're informing is like negative stuff. Is you need to there's a level of ego death required. Like that's again the separation, right? You're not your character. Or your character playing another character, and we can fuck with them a bunch of so it's been really invigorating when that's worked. And also I tried to almost exclusively, I think there's maybe one or two people who have playtested who have seen Giallo. I tried to almost exclusively playtest with people who've never seen any. And even have GMs who have never seen it. And I'm happy to report that the results were really good. Like people made Giallo movies without having ever seen it.
Yeah, you could listen back to the play report and be like, "Oh no, you guys nailed it!" Go see how close you actually got.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And that's gratifying. That means that I'm doing something.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, exactly. You've boiled down the subject matter, right? Like you were saying, like the structure that you were trying to emulate, and it's working, which is good. I have one other point here. If you want to talk about. You like me like to make some silly one-page RPGs. It looks like if you obviously we're talking mostly about your new and upcoming game, but is this your first big endeavor as like a big project on your own? I know you have writing credits with other publishers and stuff like that you've worked on bigger projects. How is transitioning? And I'm asking that this is a very selfish question, listeners, because I too am like, I have a big idea that I want to make happen and I need to talk to people.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting. This is my first big solo project. It's tough, right? Because fundamentally, I want to be a writer and designer and creative. I don't want to be a businessman. I'd rather not bother with any of that. But at a certain point, especially in RPGs, if you want something to happen, you got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's been tough, to be honest. Like, it's tough because especially as you get closer to like I've been playtesting all the while, making notes, making sure that I'm learning all the kind of making tweaks where I need to and stuff. But I haven't sat down and done some focused writing in a couple of months. And it's because I've been working. Again, this isn't helped by the fact that I'm the artist, I'm the layout person, I'm the marketing.
You wear all the hats.
Exactly. I'm doing all of the promotion. So what I've mostly been doing over the last couple of months is like art and ads and promo, which I hate doing. I love doing art. The art's very fun. I hate doing the other stuff.
Yeah,
not this bit of it. I like talking to people about the project.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't like emailing people to ask if I can.
Yeah, or thinking about like, okay, well, like I got to run this ad to do X, Y, Z, and like, how do I optimize my SE? Nobody wants to talk. Nobody wants to
No, I
think
mean,
about those things.
nobody wants to. There are people who want to talk about it, but we don't want to talk to the people who want
To
to talk
those people,
about
right?
it. Really cool. Yeah, and like that's been a challenge. And like obviously, like when you're at the level of like doing a print run of books, you've got to start thinking about other things, like margins and like, profits and, a lot of financial stuff. You got to, set up a business and think about tariffs and taxes and import fees and, you know, and it's all horrible. But having said that, like it's been very stressful, but I hope that, at the end of it, we'll have a book
Mm-hmm.
and that'll be great. And we can build from there because I've got more ideas I better have because, man, you don't make a living off of a single book.
Yeah,
Some lot of people that in RPGs don't make a living off of lots of books.
yeah, right.
You can always try and but so challenging is what
Yeah, yeah.
you've got to learn a lot of stuff.
Well, and so what's funny is I did not realize that you were also layout and artist, and you've definitely nailed that noir vibe. I love the art you have on the Kickstarter pre-launch page, which I would link it in this, but I think at this point I'll be able to link the whole thing, so people can jump right to it and just start looking at it and looking through it, and it is like so evocative, and I love the twists you've put on genre emulation with actor versus role and the bleed between those and how they influence each other makes a lot of sense and allows you to play fast and loose and reckless with your character and their role. Sounds super fun.
The art thing was interesting, right? Because this project I've been working on it. I had the idea for it originally like 8 years ago. I've been working on it on and off between other jobs, and I've been focused working on it for about a year and a half. Like to the exclusion of other things apart from your freelance thing. And for years, it kind of just wasn't making progress on it because I just kept being reminded of, I have to pay for art for this, and I can't.
Yeah.
And then about 2 years ago, I started learning some 3D modeling and sculpting. And then about a year after that, I was thinking again, I can't do the art myself. But hang on, wait, hang on. I have an art skill technically. Maybe I can do the art myself. So I'm doing the art myself. It's all 3D rendered with shaders and like rendering stuff. So it's 3D sculpted rendered. And I'm having a lot of fun doing it. Like it's a lot of work, but it's also really creative and satisfying to have so much control over it.
Yeah.
Like it's looking more or less how I want it to look, to the limits of my ability.
And it's good to be able to be like, okay, well, like I realize that, I do have this and I can use it. And then it pushes you not only to use it and get better at it, but also work with it as much or as little as, you feel like you need to hit that vision and get that vibe across. And that's great. And like you said, art's expensive. Obviously we want to support artists and stuff like that. But I mean, when you're the one person doing everything, I'm in the same boat with some games that I'm trying to make bigger, and it's like, okay, I got to commission some art, and then I'm like, okay, this is going to be like a year's worth of put this away on this paycheck and put this away on this paycheck to get these 4 pieces of splash art for whatever. So
and I mean the workflow I'm doing is I've got, then this fits into thematic stuff as well. There's a character model for each archetype that is like the actor you're representing. The actor has a name. The actor has like some details about them, fake reviews of their films that they were in and stuff. And then there's the killer model. And those are the 10 characters that are in all of the art. So they're sculpted, and I rig them so that I can just take the model once they're sculpted. I can just take them and I'm like, okay, I want a new piece of art. I'll just pose them and light them and make sure, if I want background elements are flat, or the background elements will be minimalist, so creative as well as practical reasons. And there we go. There's a new piece of art, right? So while it might take me like, I don't know, half a day to put out like a new render, like that's a pretty good work rate, really, for like a full piece of art. So I can, in theory, I'll be able to iterate basically as much art as I want. And because I have the rigged 3D models, I can also do what I'm doing, which is offer STL files as extra extras, or if you want to print them as miniatures or as busts. And no, the game does not have rules for using them as miniatures. Yes, but that's
Oh,
dangerous. Be a stretch goal to have a little thing, a little rule set for using them in the game and using them in the war game. Maybe. And
oh.
commit to that offer, thinking about.
Well,
But
it's
even without that, they'll just be nice little props, and you can use them for other games as well. If you want to use them for like a folk game that has a map-based combat system or a war game, you can use them for that.
yeah, exactly. And like you said, you made them. You might as well put them out there for people who do like STLs and printing minis and stuff. Use them. That's great.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, and like as well as that, there'll be a soundtrack which is
I did see
inspired
that.
by the Giallo synth soundtracks of the 70s, with like Goblin, bands like Goblin. It's being composed by a Volscian king who is a friend of mine, who is a Dungeon synth artist. Yeah, and you should hear that pretty soon because I'm going to start releasing some nice videos.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. And that's actually perfect, right? Like you're putting out a soundtrack, but you can call it the score to the movie, right? Like it's
Exactly.
that's awesome. That's clever and very fitting for something that's emulating this kind of genre. Put on that tense music in the background and there you go. I forgot to say this in the intro and I apologize, but congratulations. You won a BAFTA, right? For some writing.
Yeah, I mean, by extension, yes. So I worked on the video game Vampire Survivors, which won. Well, it won 2 BAFTAs while I was working. I think it won at least one more later, but I stopped following it after that for reasons. But yeah, no, when I was working there, we won Best Game BAFTA, and we won Game Design, and I accepted the Game Design award. Technically, it was the development team that won it, of which I was a part. So technically, I'm back to winning, but I do not say
Sorry.
I'm a back winning designer. I say I was part of
a team that couched, but even still, you got to go up and accept one, and that's that's awesome. That's more than I can say.
Cool. It was pretty cool. It was fun to be. I was on the for brief time. My picture was on the front page of the Guardian website, the newspaper, and they got my name wrong. They called me my co-worker's name, who was Sam, and I had to send them an email and say, I think actually that's not. And they were, but yes, it is a weird time.
That's funny. Well, hey, that's a great screenshot.
No one who hires anyone. Then I got to learn that no one who hires anyone cares about that kind of thing. But it is a cool thing to have done.
Yeah. And what a good screenshot to have. It's just like there's me on the cover of on the front page of a website, and then they got my name wrong. But that's funny. Well, that's a
good profile picture for LinkedIn.
Very good. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, we're going to transition to our closing questions for the interview, which, like the first 3 questions, are always the same and just a fun way to wrap up the interview. This first one is one of my favorites because you can get as wild as you want with it. And it's, do you have any last bits of wisdom, advice, or homework for listeners?
Man, I already blew my advice, didn't I? So, well, we'll go a bit more advice. Back Il Fantasma del Giallo on Kickstarter. I feel dirty now. Your homework
you shill
is to, if you want, because it is entirely optional whether you want to watch any Giallo films or playing this game. It is not just a Giallo game. It's a game about characters and themes and fun things like that, and those are universal. But if you would like to, I can make some recommendations. So I'd say that a lot of people argue that the pinnacle of the genre would be Dario Argento's Deep Red. It's kind of hard to argue with that. There's one that I maybe like the vibes a little bit more, but just from a filmmaking perspective, it's one of the most influential. Like, there's a lot of visuals that will be very familiar if you're a fan of David Lynch and other directors like that. Others that I recommend are The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, which it didn't start Giallo, but it started a Giallo craze in the 70s.
Okay. That's a great name.
As an example, I've got a book over there. This is just for your benefit. I've got 2 books over here, which were by a German press.
Whoa.
And
those are
they're
cool.
A collection of movie covers, movie posters.
Yep.
So it's some nice inspiration material.
Oh, that's great graphic art inspiration. Yeah, that's awesome.
And you can see why I'm going for the kind of black and high color
Yes. High. Yeah.
This book is first volume 1, and it covers 1961 to 1969, about 8 years. This one, volume 2, goes from 1970 to 1971, because
Explosion.
basically, as soon as Bird with the Crystal Plumage came out, we get a billion
Wow.
Giallo movies after that. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm eagerly anticipating volume 3, which no doubt will be like 6 months.
Yeah, it just keeps getting smaller and smaller, right?
But yeah, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, it was heavily, and it's a good film. It was heavily inspired by a 1964 film called Blood and Black Lace, which originated the look that I'm sporting in this store right now, which is a black French coat and hat and
yes, you're
leather gloves.
For listeners, I probably should have mentioned this too. You are dressed to within the genre. Yeah. You are the director for sure right now.
Yes, I'm the killer director, absolutely. Yeah, and Mario Bava originated that kind of look. Others obviously inspired. It was kind of a dark interpretation of like classic noir men, and there's a bit of the blank from Dick Tracy and stuff in there as well, because of the mask and so on. Yeah, so I'd recommend Blood and Black Lace. It's a really beautifully shot film. It's definitely it's not the most rough of Giallo films, but it's definitely on the violent side. And then of course the originator of what people think of as the original first one, which is The Girl Who Knew Too Much, which is very light murder film. Like, it's not very violent or anything. It's only like not a whole lot in terms of body count and stuff like that. But what it does is something. If you watch more than one Giallo film, you'll notice very quickly that they share the major one is unreliability of what you see and what you hear. You can't trust anything. You can't even trust what you see, because almost all of them have a central plot element where a character sees something in the early film, and then later they realize what they saw wasn't what they thought they saw, and that is the root of the mystery in the end. So it's got that. I'm going off on a tangent talking about Jonathan. I do apologize. It's got that neo-realist roots, right, where it's about like reality as you experience reality, not as an objective. It's very postmodern.
Yeah. Well, and anyway, exactly, and it feeds into the design of characters in the game and the experience. So that was great, because that was wisdom to the system and the basis of the game, and I got four movies here that I can put in there to tell people to go watch.
Yeah, and you can send me an email if you want more, and here we go, we're going to get a real slick little marketing segue. Or you can go and look at my Blue Sky, where I've got a thread of threads that I did about the game and also about films. I just repack a load of films and tell you about their themes and why they're significant, and yada yada. And there's not a huge amount there, but they include Blood and Black Lace, the one on top of the other, 1969 film, Orgasmo.
Wait, did you just randomly throw Orgasmo in there, like the Matt Stone and Trey Parker movie?
Not that Orgasmo. No.
No, sorry. I was like, well, that's very not much the genre.
No. I didn't even know about that film until I was Googling. I was like, right, I need to get a poster for Orgasmo.
Oh, that's so funny.
So I just Google Orgasmo poster. No, it's Orgasmo with an S, not a Z.
Okay.
So, no. I mean, Orgasmo, what? The 1999 one, is it? It's like about like a porn, like a sex superhero.
For the record, and I'm about to say something that's going to make listeners of this absolutely cringe. But so yeah, Orgasmo is a late 90s movie by the guys who made South Park, and it's about a Mormon missionary.
Oh yeah, so glad.
He's a Mormon missionary who goes to like a porn shoot in LA and ends up beating up a bunch of like guards, and then they cast him in the porno, but obviously he's not going to do porno because he's a Mormon missionary. But then he makes friends with one of the porn actors who's like Harvard MIT genius, and he invents a ray gun that makes people have orgasms. It's a ridiculous movie. I don't even think I'd recommend it, but here's the fun fact about it.
No, I don't think I would either, and I haven't seen it.
I went to a private Catholic high school, and we had superhero day one time, and I wore an Orgasmo costume to my private Catholic high school, and I got in a lot of trouble. But it was a pink spandex onesie with a bright silver codpiece, and let me tell you, that was a bad decision to go to school in. Anyway, sorry for derailing your very serious...
I can only remember one costume I wore fancy. I did like a fancy. That's what we call it here in good old Blighty, is fancy dress. We did a fancy dress day at one day on school, and I came as Arthur Dent, the protagonist of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which basically meant I showed up with a dressing gown on and pajamas.
Yeah. Did you bring a towel though?
Of course.
Okay, that's the important one. All right.
What else would I bring? Yes, no, it is the 1968 film Orgasmo, which is about a wealthy widower who takes in, out of loneliness and kind of self-destructive tendencies, a young brother and sister, and they end up as a polycule.
Okay.
They're step siblings, it turns out, and that makes it fine. It doesn't. It takes the thing. Like it's not. And then she's pulled into decaying sanity and manipulation and yada yada. It's quite good, actually. Like watch the Italian dub, not the English dub. The English dub is awful, but the Italian dub. That's a good point, actually. When I say the Italian dub, if you watch a Giallo movie in English, you'll be like, this dubbing, it's so obviously dubbed. If you watch it in Italian, it's also dubbed, because the Italian film industry at the time didn't record on-set audio. They just dubbed it in post to make it easier both on set to record audio and to not have to record audio, and to make it easier to redub into the various European languages.
Wild. That's funny.
This is a fun little...
Yeah.
It's
All right. Well, I will link people to the Blue Sky so they don't get the wrong version of Orgasmo. Do that. The second question for closing questions is, do you have any games you really want to get to the table, or ideas you've never been able to play at the table, like a character or a plot or anything like that?
I mean, tons. God.
Yeah.
Like,
when you ask real nerds about this, it's like, let me get my list.
Yeah. Like I'm going to have to pull up my list to see what do I want to play, because it's like asking me how long is a piece of string.
True. Yeah, give us a top 3 if it's games or something like that.
Let's do that. Okay, top 3. I would say at the moment. I have played this before, but I want to play it again because I just love it so much. Worldwide Wrestling. I think it's the best outside the Apocalypse game. I love wrestling. I think it's really good at communicating why wrestling is cool and what's cool. I would like to get some kind of Star Trek game on the table, not a specific system for it, because
a game
I don't really care anyway.
That, though,
I've been guiding my partner with Trek Purpose. I've been through it several times, and we're halfway through Deep Space Nine, which is my favorite series of Trek and one of my favorite series ever. And it's just making you go, play an RPG.
I need that. Yeah, I need that.
And honestly, probably I don't know, this one, a couple of ones. I think I haven't thought about this recently. I wanted to play a Delta Green game for years, but with kind of more weighted towards the Xbox, because I actually find the game encourages you rightly to be don't just introduce a shock off and say this is a shock off, because that's not scary. I want to run a Delta Green game where we actually never say the words Cthulhu or Mythos. You can say that that's what's happening with the weird stuff, but let's just make it an X-Files game, but with less government stuff. So I'd love to do that. And then there's just loads of indie games I want to play. Tanya Floker's.
The one that's mounting right now, or
Thunder Perfect Mind.
Yes,
I think it's a really beautiful scene, and I feel like it deserves to be played, and it's got cool mechanics as well. Like I honestly need to have like a sit down and a think about how I'd even run it. It's so interesting, but I do want to run it.
Yeah, well, you think shout out to Tanya Floker, who's been on this. I interviewed them back when they were funding Mum Chums, which I recently got my physical copy of in. And yeah, there's a Zine Month crowdfunding event right now for Thunder Perfect Mind, right? Thunder Perfect Mind, I believe. Said that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, sorry. So the game I think it's another zine. I got to look at physical copy when I was chatting with Molamute at MegaCon, but Molamute serving up disaster just seems like a lot of fun. Like I just love the zine so much. Like it's such a wonderfully laid out thing. And like if your game is just super well laid out, that makes me want to run a game with it. Just to be like this is just really cool and it deserves to run. Like I like the mechanics as well. It just seems like a really super fun run. So yeah, there's a list.
It's a good list. It's a good list. And the final question is not a question, but it is simply just tell people about what you're doing and where they can find you on the internet, which will be linked, but go ahead and do that thing.
Yes, I am in the sculpting art minds mostly. So I'm for Il Fantasma del Giallo. And you can find me at Hardy Roach Games on Blue Sky. You can find me on itch. Hardy Roach Games again. I've got a website, hardyroachgames.co.uk. There's a mailing list which you can sign up for at the bottom of the Fantasma Kickstarter or on the website, either way. And I'm not on, like I technically have an X account. I'm not on it because it's horrible. So it's saving a space for maybe one day it won't be. And other than that, I might be in an RPG Discord you're in because it's a world, and I might be running a one shot there because I'm running those not frequently. And and then after all that, I'm going on honeymoon. I'm getting married later RPG campaign. So my Kickstarter campaign. So you can please run my game, and then I'll go on honeymoon happy. And I'll be back.
Perfect. No pressure. But hey, congratulations. Yeah. And that's I hope you have a wonderful time.
Yeah, we go.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Laurence, for coming on. And all the links to everything you just said will be in the description, along with movies and lots of stuff for people to get excited about Il Fantasma del Giallo.
Yep. All right, cool.
And thank you for listening to this episode of Perspective Checks. As I mentioned on the internet somewhere, or maybe in this episode, the Kickstarter event for Il Fantasma del Giallo has been pushed back till May, till Laurence comes back from his honeymoon. So be ready to keep an eye on that. I will post more about it as we get closer to that, but I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you go watch some Giallo films and get inspired, because maybe it'll make you realize that this is a game you really want to jam on. So until next time, never count yourself out. You might just be the killer.